There comes a moment when we can no longer pretend that the problem is outside of us. We blame the circumstances. We blame the people who disappointed us. We blame the past, the lack of opportunity, the betrayal, the pressure, the exhaustion. We tell ourselves that when life becomes easier, we will become stronger. But deep within, we know the truth. The life we keep repeating is being produced by the person we keep refusing to change. Every morning, we wake up carrying yesterday into today. The same fears, the same distractions, the same emotional reactions, the same excuses disguised as reasonable explanations. We promise ourselves that this morning will be different. Yet before the day has even begun, the old patterns have already taken control. This is where rebuilding begins. Not with motivation, not with another promise, not with waiting for the perfect moment. It begins with an uncomfortable realization. We cannot build a new life while protecting the identity that created the old one. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that we have power over our own mind, even when we have no power over external events. That distinction is the beginning of freedom. We cannot command the world to obey us. We cannot rewrite yesterday. We cannot force another person to respect us, love us, understand us, or remain beside us. But we can decide what kind of person meets the day, and that decision has to be made again every morning. If we want to rebuild ourselves, there are 7 actions we must be willing to take. The first is to destroy the identity that keeps us weak. The second is to separate ourselves from what constantly pulls us backward. The third is to enter solitude and learn to face ourselves without distraction. The fourth is to make discipline stronger than emotion. The fifth is to train ourselves to endure discomfort instead of escaping from it. The sixth is to turn destructive emotions into deliberate action. And the seventh is to rebuild our identity through daily repetition until discipline is no longer something we perform, but something we embody. These are not 7 tricks. They are 7 stages of the same transformation. We destroy. We detach. We enter the silence. We discipline. We endure. We master the inner world. And then we rebuild. So let us begin where every genuine transformation must begin, with the death of the old identity. Action 1. Destroy the identity that keeps you weak. The person we are today was not created in a single day. We were shaped slowly. A comment became an insecurity. An insecurity became a belief. A belief became a habit. A habit became a pattern. And eventually the pattern became an identity. We began saying, "This is just who I am. I am lazy. I am emotional. I am unlucky. I cannot stay disciplined. I always give up. I need other people to validate me. I cannot be alone. I am too far behind. I am too damaged to change." But those statements are not identities. They are conclusions, and conclusions can be challenged. The tragedy is that we often protect the very identity that causes our suffering because it is familiar. The old self may be miserable, but it is predictable, and the human mind often chooses predictable pain over uncertain freedom. This is why change feels like death, because something familiar has to disappear. Epictetus taught that freedom begins with recognizing what is within our control and what is not. We cannot control what has already happened. We cannot control the judgments of others. We cannot control the events that arrive at our door. But we can control our judgments about those events. We can control our choices. We can control our responses. We can control whether we obey every impulse that rises inside us. That means the old identity is not as powerful as it appears. It survives because we keep feeding it. Every excuse strengthens it. Every unnecessary distraction strengthens it. Every time we surrender to anger, it becomes easier to surrender again. Every time we choose comfort over responsibility, comfort becomes more powerful. Every time we tell ourselves that we cannot change, we make the cage stronger. So we must stop feeding the identity we are trying to escape. We must become ruthless with our excuses, but never cruel toward ourselves. There is a difference. Self-hatred destroys. Self-discipline rebuilds. We are not here to punish ourselves for what we have been. We are here to take responsibility for what we become. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. The same principle applies to transformation. Stop endlessly discussing who we want to become. Stop consuming motivation while avoiding action. Stop designing imaginary futures while repeating the same behavior today. At some point, thinking must become doing. The old self does not disappear because we hate it. It disappears because we stop obeying it. That is the first death, and every morning gives us another opportunity to choose it. When the alarm rings, the old self will speak. Stay in bed. You deserve more rest. Start tomorrow. You have already failed before. Nobody will know, and we must answer without anger. Get up, not because we feel like it, because we decided. That single moment may look insignificant. It is not. It is a vote for the person we are becoming. One decision, then another, until the identity that once controlled us begins to lose its authority. The old self does not need to be destroyed in some dramatic moment. It is destroyed quietly, one refusal at a time, one disciplined morning at a time, one uncomfortable decision at a time. And eventually we look back and realize that the person who once controlled our life no longer has the same power. But destroying the old identity creates a problem. Once we stop being who we were, we must become careful about what we allow back into our lives. Because some environments are designed to resurrect the person we are trying to leave behind. That brings us to the second action. Action 2. Cut the chains that keep pulling you back. We cannot rebuild ourselves while constantly returning to the environment that broke us. This does not mean we must hate people. It does not mean we become arrogant. It does not mean we abandon everyone and call isolation strength. It means we become honest about influence. Who we spend time with matters. What we consume matters. What conversations we repeatedly participate in matters. What we normalize matters. Seneca warned us to associate with people who are likely to improve us. That principle reaches far beyond friendship. Our environment is constantly teaching us what is normal. If everyone around us complains, complaining begins to feel normal. If everyone wastes their evenings, wasting time begins to feel harmless. If everyone lives for approval, approval begins to feel like survival. If everyone avoids discomfort, discipline begins to look extreme. Eventually we stop questioning the environment. We become part of it. This is why rebuilding sometimes requires distance. Not hatred, distance. We may have to leave conversations that constantly pull us toward bitterness. We may have to stop explaining ourselves to people committed to misunderstanding us. We may have to remove distractions that have become so familiar that we no longer recognize them as chains. And sometimes the hardest thing we must release is not a person. It is an old version of ourselves that exists inside certain relationships. There are places where we automatically become who we used to be. There are people around whom we become smaller. There are conversations that awaken our worst instincts. There are environments where discipline feels impossible because everything around us rewards the opposite. We must notice these patterns, not with resentment, with clarity. A person who wants to rebuild their life cannot remain permanently available to everything that destroys their peace. This is where detachment becomes powerful. We stop asking, do they approve of me? We begin asking, does this make me stronger or weaker? We stop asking, will they understand why I changed? We begin asking, am I living according to my principles? We stop asking, what will I lose if I walk away? We begin asking, what am I losing by staying? These questions change everything, because freedom often begins with subtraction. Less noise, less approval seeking, less pointless conversation, less impulsive pleasure, less attachment to people who only know how to interact with the old version of us. And when enough noise disappears, something unexpected happens. We hear ourselves again, but that voice can be uncomfortable, because beneath all the distractions is a person we have avoided for a long time. Ourselves. And that is why the third action is necessary. Action 3. Enter solitude and face yourself. The first few moments of genuine solitude can feel like emptiness. We reach for the phone. We search for something to watch. We open another conversation. We need music. We need noise. We need someone to tell us what to think, because silence exposes what distraction hides. In silence, we meet our thoughts without an audience. We meet our regrets. our fears, our anger, our envy, our insecurities, our unfinished business. And this is precisely why solitude is so valuable. We cannot master what we refuse to observe. Epictetus taught that no person is free who has not mastered themselves. Freedom is not simply the ability to go wherever we want. It is the ability to remain inwardly governed when circumstances become difficult. A person who needs constant stimulation is not free. A person who needs constant approval is not free. A person controlled by every emotional impulse is not free. A person who cannot sit alone with their own thoughts is not free. Solitude gives us the opportunity to discover where our chains are. So we sit, we walk without our phone, we write, we reflect, we ask difficult questions. Why did that person anger me so much? Why do I need their approval? Why do I keep repeating this behavior? What am I afraid will happen if I stop? What am I avoiding? What kind of person am I becoming through my daily choices? These questions are uncomfortable because they remove our excuses. But clarity is often uncomfortable before it becomes liberating. Seneca understood the value of examining one's life. At the end of the day, we can look backward without judgment and ask, where did I act according to reason, and where did I surrender myself to impulse? Not to condemn ourselves, to learn. Every evening becomes a courtroom without punishment. Every morning becomes a new opportunity to practice. This is how self-knowledge becomes self-mastery. We stop running from ourselves. We study ourselves. We observe our reactions. We notice what triggers anger. We notice what produces fear. We notice where laziness appears. We notice when we seek approval. And once we can see the pattern clearly, we can interrupt it. That is where discipline begins. Not when we force ourselves to become perfect, but when we stop allowing every feeling to become a command. And this brings us to the fourth action. Action 4. Make discipline stronger than emotion. We will not always feel motivated. We will not always feel confident. We will not always feel energetic. Some mornings will feel heavy. Some days will feel pointless. There will be moments when the old habits seem easier than the new path. This is where discipline becomes more important than motivation. We cannot build a life around feelings that change by the hour. If we work only when inspired, our progress will always be fragile. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That is the entire principle. Decide who you want to become, then act accordingly. Not according to today's mood, not according to yesterday's failure, not according to someone else's opinion, according to the standard we have chosen. This is why morning discipline matters. The first decisions of the day teach the mind who is in control. If we wake up and immediately surrender to the phone, we have already practiced obedience to impulse. If we stay in bed because discomfort appears, we have practiced surrender. If we begin the morning deliberately, we have practiced command. The objective is not to create a perfect morning routine. The objective is to establish a relationship with ourselves in which our word means something. When we say we will wake up, we wake up. When we say we will train, we train. When we say we will work, we work. When we say we will stop wasting our time, we stop. This creates something more valuable than motivation. Trust. We begin trusting ourselves because we have evidence. We said we would do it. We did it. Again, and again, and again. That is how identity changes. Not through declarations, through evidence. Every disciplined action tells the mind, this is who we are now. And then comes the hardest test. What happens when discipline becomes painful? What happens when progress becomes slow? What happens when life places an obstacle directly in our path? That is where the fifth action begins. Action 5. Stop running from discomfort. We have been trained to escape discomfort. The moment we feel bored, we reach for stimulation. The moment we feel lonely, we seek attention. The moment we feel anxious, we distract ourselves. The moment work becomes difficult, we procrastinate. The moment failure appears, we search for an explanation. But what if discomfort is not the enemy? What if it is training? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacle is not merely something between us and our goal. It can become the material through which we develop the character necessary to reach it. Difficult people teach patience. Failure teaches humility. Solitude teaches self-reliance. Discipline teaches command. Loss teaches impermanence. Uncertainty teaches courage. Pain teaches us that we are capable of surviving what we once thought would destroy us. The ancient practice of voluntary discomfort was built around this understanding. We do not need to seek suffering for its own sake. We seek controlled discomfort, so that uncontrolled discomfort does not own us. We can choose to do difficult things, wake up when we would rather sleep, train when we would rather remain comfortable, work without applause, sit without distraction, delay pleasure, finish what we started, have the difficult conversation, say no when saying yes would be easier. These small acts build psychological strength. Eventually, discomfort stops being an emergency. It becomes information. We feel resistance and recognize it. We feel fear and continue. We feel tired and ask whether rest is genuinely needed or whether the mind simply wants escape. We feel anger and refuse to let it choose our next action. This is where emotional resilience begins. And now we arrive at the sixth action. Action 6. Take back command of your emotions. Our emotions are real, but they're not always accurate, and they're never automatically entitled to command our behavior. Anger can tell us that something matters. It does not tell us how to respond. Fear can warn us about danger. It does not always mean we should retreat. Sadness can reveal loss. It does not mean we must surrender our future to that loss. Desire can reveal what we want. It does not mean we must obey it. This distinction is crucial. Emotional control is not emotional suppression. We do not become stronger by pretending we feel nothing. We become stronger by feeling deeply without becoming enslaved by what we feel. Imagine someone insults us. The first impulse is anger. The old self reacts immediately. The new self pauses. That pause is power. Within that pause, we regain choice. We ask, what response serves my principles? Not, what response will make me feel powerful for 5 seconds? Not, how can I hurt them back? Not, how can I prove that they were wrong? But, what is the right action? This is the difference between reaction and character. The Stoic practice of negative visualization can also strengthen this discipline. Before the day begins, we can imagine difficulty. We can imagine criticism. We can imagine delays. We can imagine rejection. We can imagine failure. Not because we expect disaster, because we refuse to be psychologically shocked when life stops cooperating with our preferences. We prepare the mind before the storm arrives. Then when the storm comes, we recognize it. This was expected. Now what is within my control? That question can rescue us from thousands of unnecessary emotional battles. We cannot control what happens. We can control what happens next. That is enough. And when we practice this repeatedly, something changes. Anger becomes information. Fear becomes a signal. Failure becomes instruction. Pain becomes endurance. Silence becomes clarity. The emotions that once controlled us become material for our development. But emotional mastery alone is not enough. We must turn all of this awareness into a new identity. That is the seventh action. Action 7. Rebuild yourself through repetition. This is where transformation becomes real. Not in the moment when we feel inspired. Not when we make a dramatic promise. Not when we announce to everyone that we are changing. The real transformation happens when nobody is watching. When the excitement is gone. When the old habits call our name. When we are tired. When we are disappointed. When there is no reward. That is where the new identity is built. One action, then another, then another. We wake up, we work, we train, we reflect, we control our reactions, we protect our attention, we keep our word, we repeat, and slowly, almost invisibly, our actions begin to become character. The person who once needed motivation begins to understand discipline. The person who once feared solitude begins to value silence. The person who once reacted immediately begins to pause. The person who once needed approval begins to live according to internal standards. The person who once escaped discomfort begins to use it as training. This is the rebirth. Not becoming someone perfect, becoming someone deliberate. And this process never truly ends. The old self does not vanish forever. It waits. There will always be moments when comfort calls. There will always be moments when we want to return to familiar patterns. There will always be days when discipline feels heavy. But now we know the difference between temptation and truth. We know that the easiest choice is not always the right one. We know that an emotion is not an order. We know that discomfort is not automatically danger. We know that solitude is not emptiness. We know that failure is not identity. And most importantly, we know that our character is built through what we repeatedly choose. This is why the morning matters so much. Every morning, we stand at the border between who we were and who we are becoming. Before the world begins making demands of us, we have a brief opportunity to decide who will command the day. We can begin with distraction, or we can begin with intention. We can reach for comfort, or we can reach for discipline. We can carry yesterday's identity into today, or we can choose again. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to meet the day as a human being capable of reason, patience, courage, and justice. That is the real challenge. Not controlling the entire world, controlling the part of the world that has been entrusted to us. Our mind, our choices, our actions, our character. So let the old excuses die. Let the need for constant approval die. Let the addiction to distraction die. Let the habit of blaming circumstances die. Let the identity that says we cannot change die. But do not replace it with arrogance. Replace it with discipline. Replace it with humility. Replace it with courage. Replace it with responsibility. Replace it with quiet strength. We do not need to announce the transformation. We need to live it. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm rings, remember this. The old you will ask for one more day. Give it no answer. Stand up. Make the bed. Enter the silence. Move the body. Do the work. Control the tongue. Control the reaction. Do what must be done. And when resistance appears, do not panic. This is the moment you were training for. This is the place where the old identity loses another piece of its power. We are not trying to become people who never struggle. We are becoming people who know what to do when struggle arrives. That is strength. That is discipline. That is freedom. And perhaps one day, after enough mornings of keeping our word to ourselves, we will look back and realize something profound. We did not destroy ourselves. We destroyed the prison we had mistaken for ourselves. And from the ashes, through silence, discipline, discomfort, and deliberate action, we built something stronger. Not a perfect person, not an untouchable person, a governed person, a person who can feel without surrendering, a person who can suffer without becoming bitter, a person who can stand alone without collapsing, a person who can lose without losing themselves, a person who can face the world without needing the world to approve of them. That is the person we are building, and the work begins again tomorrow morning. No excuses, no retreat, just the next right action,